Today we are looking at green speeds that as we get closer to the championship, the greens get really championship speed. Ideally, for the 3 practice rounds, you'd want the green speeds to be the same as they are for the 4 championship days. The other thing you're doing is it's about now that you really start to work hard on water management. So we get into hand watering at this point. We're checking firmness of the greens, firmness of the fairways, getting bunkers prepped the way we want so they're a good challenge. So it's really what you're doing, it's just fine-tuning everything.
Mike Davis out of Congressional working on his greens and getting them ready for the U.S. Open. With the weather expected to hold up, we should see some terrific rounds of golf this week at Congressional. Course is unbelievable. It's in great shape. I just played it a week or so ago, and while it is a very fair test of golf, it should be a big-time showcase. So let's bring in a guest who's covered his share of U.S. Opens. Peter Kessler joins us now from his home in Orlando, Florida. Peter, thank you very much for being with us.
It's great to be with you. And listening to Mike talk about the way that they hand water the golf course, you're talking about 150 acres. He makes it sound like it's a potted plant.
He does a great job out there. I'll tell you, they are talking about those greens being 13 or 14 on the stimp meter. That is fast. It's like putting in your bathtub.
Yeah, that's not good for Lee Westwood. You know, if something pops out about that green speed, that's what pops out to me. You know, I think of the tournament they just had over in Wentworth. He 3-putted 16. It was pretty atrocious. And you think of Carnoustie a couple of years ago. You know, he had a chance to be in that playoff, but he 3-putted the last hole. And so his chipping, which is a little bit suspect, is going to run out. And he's going to have a lot of 6-footers and 8-footers. I would tend to like his chances less because of the speed of the greens.
You know, Peter, having just played the course, I can tell you the rough is 6 to 8 inches deep. I mean, it is really thick. It's difficult. Guys that don't hit the fairway are going to have some serious problems here. A field of 156, a lot of champions in there, and yet this is still wide open.
This is more wide open than anything since pre-Tiger. I mean, going back literally to the days when, you know, you had Watson and Seve and Nick and Curtis and Greg and Tom and Jack was still winning. You know, in those days it was completely wide open. There wasn't really a #1 player for about 15 years from 1980 till Tiger at the end of 96. And that's what it's like right this minute, except I'm not so sure that this crop is as good as that crop was.
You know, you talked about Westwood. He's the odds-on favorite to win the U.S. Open this week. Then comes Luke Donald. You've got Phil Mickelson. But as you said, it's wide open. What do you think about Luke Donald's chances and Phil?
I like Phil's chances if he'll hit that club that he's got. It's a 2-iron that he can hit about 255 yards in the air. And if he'll just hit that and put the ball in play and not get crazy with his driver and try to hit it 350 yards and then make a 7 and then the golf tournament is over, he could do very well. Remember, the guy's finished second in the U.S. Open 5 times. He's the only guy who's done that. You'd like to pick up a W to go with the 5.
You know, and the thing is, too, Peter, this course sets up well for him with the long fairways and the elevated greens, which really kind of fit his game.
You know, he's still monster length. I mean, he's going to be 41-1 on Wednesday. And,
yeah.
I mean, he's still extraordinarily long, but he doesn't need to be extraordinarily long with his driver. He just needs to put it in play. You know, Jack Nicklaus said recently, he talked about 1960, the double round with Hogan that he played on the Saturday, and Hogan hit the first 34 greens in regulation that day, and Jack said he hit 3 wood, and he hit 1 iron, and he hit 3 iron, and he put the ball in play. If Phil puts the ball in play, his iron game and his short game will be able to do the kinds of things of which he's capable, but you can't do it from the trees.
Peter, before we go to break, let me ask you about Luke Donald. What do you think of his chances?
If the golf course plays as long as it feels like it's playing right this minute, then I don't like his chances very much because when he's in the rough, he's going to have a shot that's 20 yards longer than some of the other guys who are as good as he is. And I don't think he can give up the length that he's going to give up this week, and I don't think he can give up the iron length of a club or club and a half, not for 72 holes. I think it might be too long for him because his driving is short and crooked generally.
Very interesting. Those are your 3 favorites. Peter, if you can stay through the break, we'll get some thoughts on some other players.
I'd be delighted.
Some final thoughts from Peter Kessler in just a moment. First, let's take a look back through the sports archives. It was on this date in 1997 that the Chicago Bulls beat the Utah Jazz 90-86. That was Game 6 of the NBA Finals. The win gave the Bulls their 5th NBA championship in 7 years. Michael Jordan, who was still recovering from the flu, led all scorers with 39 points. He was named the MVP of that series. And welcome back to Sports Talk, everybody. We're continuing our conversation with Peter Kessler, who covers the tour for Sirius XM Radio. And Peter, thank you very much for staying with us. The guy I wanted to ask you about, and it's starting to get a little buzz up here in Washington, is Matt Kuchar, who's looking for that major breakthrough, but he's been playing pretty well.
Yeah, and he's kind of the kind of fellow I think of as an inspirational player, an emotional player, even though he doesn't demonstrate those things so clearly on the surface. I feel like when he starts to believe in himself, more than almost anybody that I can think of out there, it's such an incredible effect that it sustains his golf beyond 2 or 3 weeks, which is normally how long you get to be consistent for. Nobody gets 10 weeks. Nobody gets 12 weeks unless you're a healthy Tiger Woods. But Kuchar's been playing some really consistent golf for the last couple of years. His swing is simple. He trusts it completely, and he's a really great putter from 4 to 12 feet, which is where Jack Nicklaus says that's where great players evidence themselves in critical situations. He's got a great chance to play the kind of golf of which he's capable, and if he is, it'll be good enough to contend.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. How about a guy like Rory McIlroy? I mean, young, brash, good, solid game, somewhat inconsistent at times.
If I could have anybody's next 5 years on tour, that's who I would take. I just think that he is absolutely magnificent. If he's gotten over, and there's no reason for him not to get over shooting 80. I mean, it's not that big a deal. I mean, he knows that these things can happen. So he had a meltdown. So Tom Watson had meltdowns, and then 2 minutes later, after the U.S. Open in 1974, where he shot a final round 79, he wins the British Open 15 minutes later in a playoff. So, you know, I don't see any reason why he can't turn things around immediately, promptly, and at a major venue just like this. I really like his chances.
How about a guy like Dustin Johnson, or even a more experienced guy like KJ Choi?
I'll tell you what, if KJ Choi can make the 5-footers, that's always the thing with KJ. He's as inscrutable as he looks. He doesn't give you any emotion. He hits it down the middle of the fairway, doesn't give you any excitement, puts it on the green 2 putts, but when he starts to miss greens under pressure and starts to hit the ball a little bit to the left and has a 5-footer, those things can get dicey for him down the stretch, and that's why he hasn't won major championships before. Anybody
else we should look for? Anybody that really kind of piques your interest or you're keen on?
I'll tell you, I like Graham McDowell to find his golf game again. You know, he is the reigning U.S. Open champion. Yeah, he's been playing some really scruffy stuff. But, you know, there's something about showing up and they say your name, and now the U.S. Open champion. You know what? There's no reason to think that he can't promptly turn it around, because you can't play bad that many weeks in a row either.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you about Tiger. I mean, he still has the health issues. The knee's been operated on, 4 times? What do you see there?
I see here's a 35-year-old guy who, if he's going to break Jack Nicklaus's record, he needs 5 major championships. That's as many as Seve had. That's as many as Byron Nelson had. That's a Hall of Fame career all to itself. You win 5, you're one of the greatest players that ever lived. So he's got to do that. And if he does that, you're probably winning 15 times overall, because you're going to play some tour events. So 15 times, 5 major championships makes you one of the greatest players of all time, and he's got to do that after he gets healthy.
The voice of golf, Peter Kessler. Peter, what is your website?
PeterKessler.com.
We'll be checking in on you. Peter, thank you so much.
That's great to be there. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for including me.
Thank you very much for being here. That's it for this edition of Sports Talk. Thanks for joining us. For our guests, our entire crew, I'm Tim Brant. Have a great week, and we'll see you at a Congressional Country Club for the U.S. Open. So long, everybody.